Hello there. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shrikant Acharya, and welcome to the 28th episode of Employee Engagement Live. It's a Friday evening, and I'm sure you have a ton of other things that you could be doing as the weekend is just around the corner. And I really appreciate you taking the time off and being present here. Once again, my name is Shrikant Acharya. I'm the CEO at offineeds.com. Offineeds is a leading corporate gifting and merchandise company, and this is the Employee Engagement Live. Before I welcome our guest for the day, let me take a quick minute to tell you a little bit about Employee Engagement Live and why we do it. Now, employee engagement is a very, very important topic of conversation at every large organization. Everybody knows that employees are the greatest asset for any organization, and engaging employees, empowering them to be able to be better at their personal and professional careers is a high priority for all organizations today. Uh, if the, as if that task was not tough enough, the pandemic made it even more challenging. With employees in the same building, it was relatively an attainable task. But now with everybody working from home, working in different situations, facing different challenges, it had become a very, very serious challenge to be able to engage employees in a meaningful way. And that's why I started this initiative called Employee Engagement Live, where I started interviewing seasoned HR, corporate communication professionals, and other business leaders and asking them about their ideas, philosophies, and anecdotes about employee engagement. And today is the 28th episode, and I'm super excited to have the guest that we have today. Today we have with us Vandana Tilwani. Vandana Tilwani is a performance-driven HR leader with over 20 years of experience in the media, advertising, publishing, BPO, KPO, and hospitality industry. She's based in Mumbai and is currently the CHRO of Havas Group India. Havas Group is one of the world's largest communication groups, founded in 1835 by Charles Louis Havas. The group employs more than 19,000 people in over 100 countries. Prior to Havas, Vandana has worked with organizations like Group M, Condé Nast, Hilton, WNS, Citel, Ugam Solutions, Wipro, BPO, and New Biotechnology. Without any further ado, let me welcome Vandana. Good evening, Vandana. How are you doing today?
Good evening. I'm doing very well. Thank you. How about you?
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Vandana, tell us a little bit about what your idea is about employee engagement.
So, employee engagement, according to me, is like an approach. It's a workplace approach, where, uh, you need to, we thrive as HR people, as an organization. We are trying to create an environment and conditions which are most conducive, where employees want to come to the office and do their best. The idea is that, through the engagement initiatives, through programs, through communication, through everything that we do, employees, feel like they're part of an organization. They want to come in and give their best, which eventually, helps organizations succeed and even improve productivity of employees. See, it's a two-way communication and commitment between an employee and employer. So employee engagement kind of is according to me one of the most essential aspects of an organization to really succeed. That's my point of view.
Absolutely. Very, very well said, Vandana. Let me ask you this, right? I see on your profile that you worked across almost 7 or 8 different companies and 3 different sectors, very, very different from each other, right? You've got hospitality, you've got media and publishing and advertising, and you've got BPO, KPO, right? How
Yeah.
is employee engagement different? Is it different or is it very, very similar? If it's different, how is it different?
Uh, so you know what? Both. It's similar and it's different, because at the end of the day, the objective is the same, right? You want to make sure that your employees are engaged, and you're going to do create a strategy. You're going to have programs that help your employees stay more committed in the organization. But of course, what the programs that you run tend to differ from the industry. Like I started my career in the BPO industry, and obviously depending on the type of industry, the kind of people that you use. For example, the BPO industry has a very high number of young population. So
Mm,
engaging them, and I have to admit that when I was with Cytel, that's where I started my career. Uh, High energy young people, engaging them was a lot of fun. Vis-a-vis hospitality industry, where the staff tends to be completely different, and then now in the space of media advertising and publishing, where you have a lot of creative folks, a lot of people who are probably doing a lot more, like I wouldn't say it not important, but I'm saying a lot more serious work, because they're dealing with um, large amounts of money. They're planning marketing for their clients, so it's very different. So the engagement obviously tends to be very, very different. So the programs that I run today in Havas is very different from what I used to do in Cytel, and
mm.
then for the brief period that I was in the hospitality, very different.
Right. So can you probably tell us about one of the most successful initiatives in each sector that you've taken, and how was the impact of that initiative?
So let me talk about Havas, because it's like the most recent, like the media and advertising. So when I joined Havas, within 3 months we actually went into the lockdown,
Mm,
and we all started working virtually. I think for us the biggest fear was that we were going to lose connection with our employees. How are we going to communicate with them? We were not used to working with them remotely. Of course,
mm,
the work side, the work part aside, we said that as HR, how we're going to engage with them. So I think that was so the whole of 2020 was literally focused on engagement. Like our
mm,
strategy was about engagement. um, we created multiple properties, so we kind of split it into education. There was pure fun, there was health and wellness, and
mm,
then there was learning, like how do you
mm,
kind of educate people. Then we created these four buckets. We created a calendar. Under learning, for example, we created a very interesting property called Havas Talks,
mm,
where we would invite people from the industry or the region or global, who would come and talk to people about contemporary subjects. It's one of the most popular, and we continue to run that Havas Talks even today. It's under the learning bucket.
mm,
Um, Under engagement, we pure fun, right? Like, so what, maybe like a Friday event, or depending on all of those activities that you do based on some event. It could be a Diwali, it could be imagine trying to do all of that virtually. So
mm,
quizzes, running, having breakout sessions, having guitar singing sessions, all sorts of pure fun stuff. um, so in that sense, virtually, honestly, I have to say, when I look back at 2020, in the kind of engagement stuff that we did, and the way we were able to retain and engage our employees has can be called a success story. Because the
mm,
next year, in 2021, when we actually had an engagement survey, our scores had shot up, and all of the areas where people felt like we felt like we could have done better, we did better.
mm,
2021, on the other hand, was completely different. The uncertainty, coming back to office, not coming back to office, but obviously we said, okay, so then the hybrid a version of that came out. 2021, we realized, okay, now we've kind of we have to go beyond engagement and do something more. So the focus was on development. We rolled out a lot of programs which gave people an opportunity to be part of, workshops, anything that helped them kind of grow. Because we were also evolving as an organization, the definition of engagement for us was changing. So media and advertising is like that, and you need to intellectually stimulate your people, because that's the kind of audience that you have. Um,
right.
BPO, like I said, on the other hand, was full on fun. In those days, we used to be in office. Offices were operating 24/7. In one office, I had like 1,500 people, and we had a specific engagement team whose job was to kind of engage with employees. So apart from the fun stuff, we because BPOs also tend to have very high attrition. If I'm sure you know that in those
Yeah.
days at least. So we would have things like early attrition. How do you capture that? So we would roll out initiatives to make sure that there is a constant kind of touch point for employees, with employees. We had a lot of Friday events. We had a lot of learning and development. We have internal job postings, because these things help, right? Like
Right.
a lot of times people feel like if they're not growing, and that's a very critical aspect of their job. An internal job posting probably was one of our most successful initiatives in the BPO industry, because people felt like they could grow in an industry which is so large. Sometimes they often feel stuck in a role. They feel like,
Correct.
how am I able to make a career or not? So some of those were, and I remember one particular, I don't know which, there was one particular initiative where we were collecting funds. I think there was a flood situation. I think it was for, across India. And we were collecting funds. I remember we did a road show, because it was a large audience, right? How do you like really create awareness, and how do you collect, encourage people to kind of donate and feel like they're doing something which is beyond their regular stuff. We did road shows, we did plays, we went into different pods, different works, works near workstations of people's, and we actually, like enacted, how those you have those plays, right, that people do, and it so BPOs was a lot of fun, and because of the crowd, but also we had to focus on keeping them engaged through constant growth and development and career planning sessions and things like that.
Right.
Hospitality is slightly different. Hospitality is they tend to have fun on their own, okay? Because in the hotel industry, they are literally working in the space for about 14-15 hours at a stretch. Most of them are, in that particular premise for that long. And I think so not so much, but yeah, I think reward and recognition tends to be a very critical engagement strategy in the hospitality industry, because how do you reward them, how do you kind of incentivize them to work so hard? Okay, that's tends to be. So the three industries are very different. I've had a lot of fun engaging employees in all three sectors, I have to say.
Awesome. Sounds really good. So I heard I know you mentioned a few points, but let me tell you what I took away in the advertising and publishing industry. You spoke about intelligent stimuli and things like that. You spoke about sessions and learning and development in BPO. You spoke about a lot of fun events and fun activities, and in hospitality, you spoke about the role of rewards and recognition.
Yes,
But overall, I think
absolutely.
you mentioned the role of learning and development, and you spoke about internal job postings. So, shall we talk a little bit about the role of internal job postings, because that's pretty interesting, and let's talk about what role it can play in helping improve employee engagement. But before we do that, let me tell you a few members in the audience. I can see Deepankar Sahai, Sachin, and Sajid Kumar commenting and saying hi, hello guys, thank you so much for joining. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, please drop in a comment, and um you can drop in a hi, or in a few more minutes, if you have any questions that you'd like to point to Vandana, you can type it there, and we'll ask Vandana that question. So coming back to that, Vandana, can you talk a little bit about the role of internal job postings in improving employee engagement in an
Sure,
organization?
absolutely. Especially in the BPO sector, and I can talk about that. BPO, KPO, the whole outsourcing industries. These are large industries, large organizations. Each team which is supporting a specific client, you'll see that there will be like a team of about 300, 400 people. Most of them, and especially in those days in 2001, 2002, the BPO industry was booming, but it also had its own set of challenges. A lot of people did not understand how they were going to make careers in this industry. We had extremely high attrition. A lot of parents did not understand what their kids were doing in this industry, because some of them were working in night shifts, and they thought that all they were doing is have fun. There was a bit of a taboo. So we were doing our best to break that, right? I mean, with attrition rates as high as 84%, how do you retain employees? It was honestly a retention strategy, because we told people that, who were right from freshers to people who were coming from different industries like hotels and others, that you can actually stay here and make a career. But that was not, it's not that easy, right? How do you make create a process in a place which has thousands of employees, where the process is transparent, where there is objectivity in the process? Because otherwise, people tend to, tends to be a bias. I promote this person, I will promote that person. But we
Correct.
wanted to kind of, so an ITP is a lovely process where there are certain criterias where people from across agencies who might be interested in particular role and feel like they qualify, they can apply, they go through a complete objective assessment interview. And like in within a year, within 2 years, people get an opportunity to either move vertically or horizontally if they want to change their businesses. So that created a lot of opportunities for people to kind of hold on, stay in the system, helped us to kind of retain people in the organization. And I thought
Right.
it was one of the most amazing strategies for us in Citel.
Right, right. Yeah, I want to pick another question on the lines of a comment that Sajid Kumar has put here. It says employee engagement is a continuous process and not only when things are great. As a matter of fact, I think,
Yeah,
and you kind of emphasize that it's more important when things are not great, like when the
absolutely.
pandemic happened, when the lockdown
Yeah,
happened, and people had serious challenges. And you mentioned about initiatives which you took during that time, which helped you increase the scores and
yeah.
in all segments, in all parts of the survey, right? So let's talk about a little bit about that. Was that did that create an opportunity? You spoke about some of the initiatives like the Havas talks. Is it Havas talks?
Yeah, Havas
No,
talks. Yeah,
probably it would not have been possible if it was working from office kind of a situation. You wouldn't have. I mean, generally trainings and talks are thought of as in-person talks, right?
yeah.
Pre-pandemic, it was not normal to have webinars and all of that stuff. So did that create an opportunity to be able to engage employees better?
So, of course, webinars were happening even before that, but you know how webinars were considered 2 years ago. Most people would try to skip it because people didn't enjoy staying in, they felt like learning couldn't possibly happen in that manner. But of course, the pandemic completely has changed the way we learn, the way we absorb, the way we work, the way we collaborate with teams. So, I think it was a great opportunity. I think the way Havas Talks picked up in terms of popularity and in terms of the diversity of people that we could bring in to come and talk to our employees definitely improved in the pandemic, because then now we could call anybody, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we were calling clients, we were people calling people from the global teams, and everybody was very enthusiastic because everybody was in it together, everybody understood. But it created a huge opportunity for us to uh, because people were a little bit burnt out, people were stressed, and I think a property like Havas Stocks is really something that gives people. Sometimes it would be just like we would call somebody to just like we even called a stand-upist, by the way. So it could be as serious as like a talking about some framework to somebody who's a stand-upist who just kind of comes to entertain people. So it gained in popularity, and I agree with you that I think perhaps it would have, the pace at which it kind of picked up may not have been as fast if this was not the pandemic situation. So you're right.
Right. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about Harvard stocks, what happens, and any significant impacts or any stories that interesting stories that come out because of that.
Um, so the format is very simple, honestly. So for example, Havas has a lot of internal frameworks globally that we roll out. So for example, for media, we have something called media experience, which is MX. We have also something called meaningful brands, or creating meaningful experiences is at the heart of what we do at Havas, be it through, because we are creating content, right, from an advertising point of view.
Yeah.
So we have something called meaningful brands, for example. So we educate people. There is a whole framework where we talk about how do you create meaningful experiences, because at the end of the day, it's not only about creating content. It's also about how, if you're able to make an impact on people's lives, right? Then we have something for the advertising world, which is CX. So similarly, we have multiple frameworks. Or like we have a client, for example, who might come in, enlighten us on something that's very contemporary and relevant for our employees to really learn. Then we reach out to them. It's about a 45-minute session. It's sometimes it could be a fireside chat, sometimes it could be them coming up with a presentation. And honestly, a lot of people really register and come for these sessions. And then we leave about the 15 minutes in the end for a Q&A. And I would say that just the diversity and the fact that people continue to come in and log in, the thing is that now it's become like a very important for us to make sure that every session is more interesting and better than the other. So this for us has now become very, very special.
Awesome.
And it's a hit. We get good feedback. People love it. And in fact, there are sometimes suggestions that, listen, can you next time, can we try and get somebody from this industry, for example, to come
Wow.
and talk to us? So in that sense, it's gained popularity. It engages
Amazing.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds really exciting. I think it's a brilliant idea to be able to invite your clients and to be able to speak to
Yeah.
the kind of address the entire team, because generally it's the sales folks or the business development guys who are in touch with the clients, and
Yeah.
the rest of the organization may not have the point of view
And these are some
that is
very
needed.
interesting clients, like, for example, some of our clients are very new age clients. So somebody in the e-commerce space, somebody in the
Mm,
whole, like an Ola Uber, or, I don't want to take names of clients, but
yeah.
it could be people in the space that people really want to, like, it could be somebody from crypto, uh,
Mm,
at the space, or maybe even a large FMCG, and people want to hear these people talk.
right,
So it's a great experience.
right. Awesome. So let there's a post of yours which I saw, which spoke about, I think the topic was be kind to your mind, something like that. So I guess that's something a little bit about mental wellness. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So, 2020 was the year, of the pandemic, where most people were kind of adjusting to working in remotely. Uh, we know that a lot of people struggled because it was just something that most people were not able to deal with over an extended period of time. Also, the second wave, I think, was quite devastating. A lot of us,
Yeah.
lost people, and I think people were not exactly in a great frame of mind. Um, and during that phase, you hear of stories of people who, are having breakdowns, are, going to doctors, psychologists, um, having mental issues and all that. So we realized that, it's happening to everybody. It's just that not one or two people who we think have issues, but I think everybody was suffering. And we
Mm,
realized that a lot of people don't openly come and talk about mental issues that they have. And we
yeah.
realized that there was a taboo around it.
Mm,
So we said, how do we break that? How do we make employees feel that they can openly talk about these issues? And, and that's when we piggybacked on one of our global programs on mental health called Be Kind to Your Mind.
mm,
Um, through which we have access to a lot of panel discussions, webinars, a lot of material that we can actually pass on to our employees. And we thought that through this, we will encourage employees to come out and talk about these things, because a
mm,
lot of them are afraid to talk about this, especially if they have it themselves. It's very easy to talk about others, but when you have it yourself, when you're going through yourself, because you feel that an organization is not going to be supportive, my manager is not going to be supportive, they're probably going to judge me and they're going to get me out of the system.
yeah.
So we wanted them to feel like, it's a safe environment, come and talk about it. So we rolled it out in the month of Jan was a big hit. The panel discussion was really, really good. And every month we pick a theme. So
Mm,
one month it could be addiction, for example. In some month it could be body image. Some people
mm,
go through those things. Then it could be just the whole LGBTQ
mm,
aspect. So it's now in motion. So we have a lot of
mm.
exciting stuff. So it's a year-long program. Let's see if we want to kind of, if it works well for us, we'll even extend it to next year.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds really good. Sounds really interesting and a great way to improve employee engagement, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to pick up piece a little bit about what you said, that the role of rewards and recognition in the hospitality. So tell us a little bit about the importance of rewards and recognition, in is it only applicable to certain sectors, or is it beyond only hospitality? And does merchandise have to play any role in employer brand building?
Absolutely. I think R&R, or recognition of reward and recognition of some kind, is exists in every industry, even in the BPO sector, right? I mean, and I believe that recognizing through financial incentives or even merchandise, I think we've leveraged all the elements. In the hospitality, it works it's a little stronger. R&R tends to be, because I think for a multiple reasons, a lot of reasons. I think because they are generally they're extremely hardworking people. A lot of your staff is also not. It's they're coming from a different strata of society. They work extremely hard, like 14, 15 hours. A lot of, in some departments, it's a lot of physical work. And it's an industry where they have to constantly smile, even when a guest is like abusive. They have to keep, they so I for me, honestly, that hospitality industry gave me a newfound respect for people who work in the hospitality space, because sometimes guests can be really nasty,
Yeah.
and we realize that it's so important for these people who work in this industry to feel appreciated and recognized. Sometimes guests also appreciate. There are some guests who are very large, and they recognize, and they make sure that their managers know about it. But sometimes it can be tough. So it becomes, for an industry like this, a reward and recognition can be. So it could be through general recognition of their work. I mean, I think in that industry has ways and means to kind of measure. There is customer satisfaction scores and all sorts of things. Then there is obviously financial incentives, so that they feel a little, because the compensation is also not very high in this industry. So what can you do to kind of incentivize and motivate them? And like I said, like if there are specific events, birthdays, and there are those annual reward and recognition programs, and how do you kind of, through merchandise, through gifts, it is all part of the whole. So it could be uh, money, it could be merchandise, it could be just pure recognition. So it's a
Right.
combination of three.
Perfect. Awesome. So I want to remind anybody in the audience, if you have any questions, now is a great time to put it out in the comment, and I'll point it to Vandana. We have a question from somebody on LinkedIn who says, how to ensure employee engagement works great in remote settings. Any thoughts on that, Vandana? You already spoke about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sessions,
We
Havas talks,
successfully
and
did that. Yeah.
yes.
So we successfully did that in Havas in 2020. The whole year was literally remote engagement. And like I said earlier, we consciously like created what are the four buckets. So there was one which was learning, and under that we had whole stages. So we also have our internal learning management system and things like that. So learning through Havas talks, through the learning management system, and they're all virtual, right? So we created a calendar, making sure that employees were getting an opportunity to get trained on contemporary topics and topics related to their work. Then there was meant health and wellness. So
Mm,
we were organizing sessions on through yoga. We were playing quizzes. We were playing games online. We were calling people to talk about physical and mental. So there was that whole thing there. Then there was the section on pure fun,
mm,
which was generally Friday sessions where we would play houses, tambola. We were playing all sorts of games. There was music. Somebody, we so basically we created one whole calendar and covered almost like every aspect of engagement, and we drove it virtually.
awesome.
Then we also included things like, we realized that how important it was for the leadership to communicate and give confidence to the employees at that particular time. So there was a lot of involvement and engagement with the leadership team. So we would call this. There was something called CEO speak, the leaders speak. Sorry. So the CEO would sometimes come and talk, or sometimes, so we had a lot of town halls regularly, monthly town halls, We made sure that individually for each of the agencies, also respective CEOs and MDs were doing town halls and talking to them, giving them updates. So the leadership connect was also there, telling them how things are really working out, how the business is doing, how the market is, are things changing, are things getting better. And of course then the whole employee safety bit, when we opened up the offices, then we made sure that there was enough and more communication. We vaccinated our employees. So I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do virtually, and like I said, it reflected in the scores that we had in 2021. And people were, and especially in areas of communication, um, of course there's always that whole angle. I think people were definitely very stressed because of the remote working, the Zoom calls, because people were working in the night, morning, at odd hours. But I guess that now is going to get sorted.
Right,
So,
right. Perfect. I want to pick on a LinkedIn post which you put a couple of months back, where you said, I think you quoted Formula One race driver Alex Diaz Ribeiro, who said, "Unhappy is he who depends on success to be happy." I found that to be a very powerful statement and a very important message. Can you elaborate that a little bit?
so that's a very, I think it's a very personal philosophy, and I think that happiness is a very personal, individual thing. And I think often we tend to uh, because we spend so much of our life and time, in the work area,
Yeah.
doing so much work, for us, success and happiness, success at work equals
Mhm.
happiness. And
Right.
I think that made us, in the pandemic, that must have been the biggest realization for most people, that
Mhm.
there is so much more to life than just success at work. And
Right.
our work should not define. I think work is a very important part of our identity, because
Yes.
it really gives you a lot of purpose and meaning. And at the end of the day, people should do what they love doing. But there is also other aspects like health, like family, like
Yes.
taking time off, which I think a lot of people realized in the pandemic. Honestly, I think this whole 2 years has been quite a so I'm a very balanced person, and I feel like I I for me, work is important, but I also have lots of other things that I do that give me equal joy. So I'm into fitness. Take all these courses. Play the piano. I do this. I try. So there is a lot. I think that people need to learn to balance. That's what this quote was all meant to be about.
Right. You said a few important points, right? You spoke about happiness. You spoke about aligning with purpose, having multiple, having that balance. Can organizations play a role in helping employees find happiness, find connect with their purpose, and to be able to find that balance? If yes, how?
That's a tough one, okay? Because it's easier said than done.
Mm,
Because I think a lot of I think it works both ways. An organization can facilitate an environment, can create an environment, because we do, right, through all
yeah.
of the engagement activities that we do, or through all of the programs, we are giving employees an opportunity to learn, which is
Yeah.
beyond work. We are
Mm,
giving them opportunities to have fun, which is over and above.
correct.
So it's not, I think we can create that environment, we can create the whole ecosystem. But it's also an individual choice. It's
Yeah.
like, how do you um are you able to do it? Because a lot of people today really struggle with that. Most people
Mm,
feel I just don't know how to, let's say, disconnect when they are at home. A lot of
mm,
people uh, don't know that how to say no. How, if somebody is
correct.
calling, how do you set your own boundaries? I think a lot of people struggle, because the Indian culture is where everybody works like they feel like they were born only to work. And I think something needs to change there. Um I think the new generation is very different. I think it's our generation that really looks at things like that. So hopefully, I think the lockdown, the pandemic has made people realign their priorities and find the balance. But I think organizations are trying. They do as
Mm,
much as they can. But at the end of the day, it's your thing. So I have to say that please don't call me after 6:30. I have to say that I have,
Mm.
this, I can't do this right now. I'll be able to do it tomorrow or something. It's my choice. It's an individual choice.
Right, right. Perfect. Awesome. So, I want to ask you, you've been almost 20, little more than 20 years in the HR space. And what have you seen changing from an employee point of view? What has changed? How have their expectations changed? And from an HR point of view, how has the role of HR changed? And how has it transitioned over the last 20, 22 years?
Oh, I think that there's definitely been a change. I think in a huge shift in the way in what the employees actually expect out of an organization. Today,
Mm.
employees are like asking questions like, "What's in it for me?" Like what more can you do? How is this organization going to help me? Achieve my goals?
Right.
How is this organization going to be, has to, what does it have to offer in terms of culture, as compared to another organization? See, for
Mm.
example, we all know there are some organizations like who have set benchmarks, right? You look at a Google, you look at a
Yeah.
Netflix, for example, and they have policies which are just, it's very difficult for some of us to replicate, but they have set high. Now people are thinking that, because we are going global, I think a lot of employees have very, and they're changing the way organizations are really
Mm.
creating policies. Policies are no longer sacrosanct. A lot of it is really fluid.
Mm.
We want to, everybody wants to be seen as a progressive organization and not
Mm.
somebody who's stuck, like, in some policy which was created 20 years ago. So I think a lot of the employees today, the younger generation, is really forcing us to relook at the way employees are treated. We have, for example, they want to know, how can I grow in your company? They
Mm.
want to know, can I work remotely? I don't want to come
Right.
to office. So I think just the way they are expecting us to, the expectations are forcing us to realign our strategies, our working styles, our approach to employee engagement. And I think it's fascinating because, at the end of the day, one should move with the times. If you won't, then your employees are just going to leave you.
Correct. Absolutely. And how do you see the HR role changing in this context?
I think HR is here to stay. We are definitely not going out of fashion. Um, uh, I mean, honestly, if I look at the way HR was, let's say, when I started my career 20 years ago to where we are today, there is a huge shift. Today there are roles like DNI specialists. For example, we have somebody in the global team who just drives the whole DNI agenda. Then we have roles like happiness officers. So I think, while the classic HR functions, roles will remain. We continue to recruit, we continue to, but how we do them will be different. I think recruitment, things like recruitment, payroll processing, a lot of your uh, things which can be outsourced might, but HR will start to do a lot of very interesting work. They will be expected to, and which have anyway we have already seen in the last 10-15 years, is actually they have a seat at the, at the
Yeah.
table. They're, working very closely with CEOs to drive, business goals. I really think that will continue to happen. In fact, I don't know if you've read the news, in the last 3-4 months, there were at least two women
Yeah.
HR leaders who actually became CEOs of the organizations that they were part of it. So I'm
Yes.
seeing that kind of trend, and I'm hoping that more and more of that will happen, because gone is the day when an HR would is somebody who just did HR and did not understand business, because that's not
Mm.
how it will be anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you summarized it very beautifully. We are almost at the end of our time, and I want to close with one final question. You spoke about DNI, diversity and inclusivity, right? So talk to us a little bit about why is it why is it becoming so important, and why is everybody talking about it, and what should organizations to do to find that balance?
I think the DNI, the whole gender imbalance in India and globally is actually quite saddening, considering that the number of girls actually getting educated, and then you look at the number of girls who are actually going into the workforce. It's quite. I mean, it's way lower than anywhere in the world. And then with that low number, if you really look at the number of women who are actually in leadership roles, is even more dwindling. It's even kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
So I think in India, I know that globally DNI obviously represents a lot of stuff. It includes LGBTQ. It's also about like the Black Lives Movement and a whole lot of things. Racial racism and all that. In India, I think we need to get fundamentals in place, and we need to at
Mhm.
least ensure that there is equality in terms of gender. So at Havas, for example, we rolled out a program called Women Who Inspire. It's something we rolled out in 2020. We are a bunch of 12 people who come together, 12 leaders who come together and see how we can change the DNA of the organization and make it more equal. How do we create an environment where women feel that they can thrive and make a career? So we are working towards ensuring there are more women in leadership roles through hiring, through promotions, and so on. We are also creating programs to help women kind of come out of those mental blocks that they might have about what a woman can do, helping them see that. So especially by bringing a lot of leadership women in leadership roles to see what is really possible. It's, and I think it's quite globally also. There's a lot of focus on that. In India, we've managed to make a lot of progress. I remember when I
Yeah.
joined, we were 2179. Okay, today we are 32, and in a span of 1.5 years, I'm talking about the ratio. Just the
Right.
ratio itself is changing. The number of women in leadership roles is increasing, and we're really making an effort. Our leadership team is very committed to make that happen.
Awesome, fantastic. It is great speaking to you, Vandana. Before I let you go, I want to kind of take a risk and ask you a slightly controversial question. Right. So I'm a very strong believer in the importance of the gender balance within the organization. And at our own company, we have about 100 employees, and almost 35 to 40% are women
Women.
folks. Right. But and there has been a push in a lot of organizations that we work to hire more women and promote more women and things like that, and this has left a few men upset, because there are more women and more men in the organization, and fewer of them are getting promoted and opportunities like that. And I've seen a few posts about how they're unhappy with this new change. So what do you have to say to them? Is it what do you have to tell to those people who are feeling that they're being treated unfairly?
I would say deal with it, because this is how the world is going. Um, uh, Balance is important in the universe as it is important in organizations.
Right.
Um, y- uh, we have numbers. There are numbers to show that organizations that are diverse do much better. In fact, we are working with the United Nations Women in India to because we are in the space of advertising, and we help create a lot of content. We are working with them to see how the gender stereotype that happens through the content that we create. How do we portray women? We are working with them to make sure that that those harmful stereotypes are reduced. So the world is changing, and but I also want to tell them that. That there's no need. I think there's no need to feel threatened or feel that you're being shortchanged or something like that. I think women have been shortchanged for thousands of years, and the idea is to get to an equal footing. It's not about us becoming better or more. It's about getting on an equal footing, and we are not even close to where we want to be. And
Right.
if as men, if you can put your insecurities aside and support this cause, I think you will see, because you have your own daughters, sisters, mothers,
Yeah.
I'm sure that you want that kind of a world for them, and not you don't want your daughter to go into a world where she feels like she cannot make a career, where she feels like she could be harassed and abused, and maybe she, despite her talent, she can't grow. So let's
Right.
help together create an environment where women really feel like they can grow, you know.
Right. Awesome. Very well said, Vandana. I think it's you kind of put it bluntly. You said men deal with it.
Deal with it.
That's the way it is. You got to you had it easy all these days. So work
Yeah,
harder. Work harder
absolutely.
now.
Work harder
Right.
now, because listen, we all know that it's not about one being better than the other. Everybody's, this is the knowledge economy. This is an economy where it's all about your talent and skills, and everybody's out there, so it should be purely on the basis of merit. But if
Hmm.
there is a push that needs to be given in this area, then let's do it.
Right. Awesome. Fantastic, Vandana. It was really, really nice speaking to you.
Same
Thank you
here.
so much for your time. And I want to thank everybody from the audience. You spent good amount of time on a Friday evening. Really appreciate it. We really hope you found value in spending time with us. Thank you once again, Vandana. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you for inviting me. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye bye.